The council chamber was the coldest room Min Jun Park had ever entered. Not cold in temperature, but in feeling. The walls were smooth gray metal. The lights were bright and white. 47 alien species sat in their seats, arranged in a perfect circle. Everything about this place was designed to remove emotion, to focus only on logic and rules. Minjun stood in the center of the circle. He was the human ambassador, representing Earth and all human colonies across the galaxy. His dark suit was simple and professional. His hands were steady at his sides. He had known this day would come eventually. The Korvax Prime Counselor rose from his seat. The Korvax were tall beings with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. They had no expressions that humans could read. Their voices were flat and emotionless. Counselor Vrex looked down at a datapad in his hands. "Ambassador Park," Vrex said. His voice echoed in the silent chamber. "Humanity stands accused of violating the sacred isolation protocols. These protocols have maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Your species has broken them repeatedly and deliberately." Min Jun said nothing. He simply listened. He knew what was coming. Vrex touched his datapad. A large holographic display appeared above the center of the room. Images began to show, one after another. The first image showed a human woman married to a Dravine male. They were holding hands. Their children, mixed human and Dravine, played nearby. "Exhibit 1, Vrex said. Emotional bonding across species lines. Forbidden." The next image showed a human teacher in a classroom of young Korvax children. The children were laughing. One was hugging the human teacher. "Exhibit 2, Vrex continued. Cultural contamination. Introduction of emotional dependency in youth. Forbidden." More images followed. A human doctor working in an alien hospital surrounded by grateful patients. A human engineer and his Solvax business partner celebrating a successful project. A human family who had adopted 3 orphaned Threen children. An elderly human woman having dinner with her alien neighbors, all of them smiling and talking. Each image was labeled as evidence of a crime. "The sacred isolation protocols exist for a reason," Vrex explained. His voice never changed tone. "Emotional bonds create bias. Bias creates favoritism. Favoritism destroys the merit-based system that keeps our galaxy stable. Personal relationships between species lead to chaos, to war, to the collapse of civilized society." Another counselor stood. She was Threen, with silver feathers and sharp yellow eyes. "Humanity has spread across 40 systems. In every system, they form these dangerous attachments. They make friends. They create families. They introduce concepts of loyalty that override duty to the Council. This cannot continue." A third counselor rose, this one Dravine with scales and a powerful build. "Our intelligence reports show over 6 million documented cases of humans forming close personal bonds with members of other species. 6 million contamination points. Each one is a threat to galactic order." Min Jun watched the images continue to display. He saw humans laughing with aliens. He saw humans crying at alien funerals. He saw humans teaching alien children. He saw humans growing old alongside alien friends. Every moment of connection, every sign of love and friendship was being presented as a crime. "Therefore," Vrex said, and the chamber went completely silent. "The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision. Humanity must withdraw all citizens to Earth within 30 days. All human colonies in non-human space must be abandoned. All humans living among other species must return home. All cross-species relationships must be terminated immediately." He paused. The pause felt like it lasted forever. "If humanity refuses these terms, the Council will consider it an act of rebellion. We will respond with total war. Humanity will be eliminated as a threat to galactic stability." The other counselors all stood in agreement. 47 species. united in their decision: war or isolation. Those were the only choices they were offering. Min-jun took a slow breath. He had prepared for this moment for 3 years. Ever since the Council had started investigating human activities, he had known where it would lead. The Council feared what humanity represented. They feared change. He looked up at Councillor Vrex. Then he did something that shocked every being in that chamber. He smiled. It was not a cruel smile or a mocking smile. It was warm and genuine. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they know something important that others do not yet understand. "Thank you, Councillor Vrex," Min-jun said. His voice was calm and kind. "Thank you to all the honored members of this council. I appreciate your time and your honesty. We will respect your decision." Vrex's large black eyes seemed to narrow slightly. This was not the response he expected. "You accept our terms?" "I accept that this is your decision," Min-jun replied, "and we will prepare accordingly." "You will withdraw your citizens?" another counselor demanded. "We will ensure all humans are where they need to be," Min-jun said carefully. "You have given us 30 days. We will use them wisely." Vrex studied the human ambassador. Something felt wrong about this response. He had expected anger. He had expected threats of military retaliation. Humans were supposed to be emotional beings. They should be frightened or furious. Instead, this human was smiling and speaking with complete confidence. "You believe your military can defeat the combined forces of 47 species?" Vrex asked. Min-jun's smile grew slightly wider. "I believe you will see the truth very soon, Counselor. I believe you will understand what humanity really is." "Your confidence is misplaced," Vrex said coldly. "Your military fleet is small. Your technology is adequate, but not superior. You cannot win this war." "Perhaps," Min-jun said, "but perhaps we are not planning to fight the kind of war you expect." He bowed respectfully to the council. It was a human gesture of politeness. Then he turned and walked toward the chamber exit. His footsteps echoed in the silent room. Every counselor watched him leave. Many of them felt confused. Some felt angry. A few felt a strange sensation they could not identify. It might have been doubt. As Min-jun reached the door, he paused. He looked back over his shoulder at the assembled council. "I will see you all again soon," he said. "I look forward to it." Then he was gone. Councillor Vrex stood in the center of the chamber. He looked at the other councillors. "Approved," he announced. "The council fleet will mobilize immediately. If humanity has not begun evacuations within 30 days, we will proceed with military action." The vote was unanimous. War was declared. But as the councillors filed out of the chamber, many of them could not shake a strange feeling. The human had been too calm, too confident. It was as if he knew something they did not. Vrex returned to his private office. He sat at his desk and pulled up the intelligence files on humanity one more time. He read through the reports. Military strength, adequate but not exceptional. Technology, comparable to Council standard. Population, small compared to the galactic total. Strategic advantages, none apparent. Nothing in the data explained the human ambassador's confidence. Vrex closed the files. It did not matter. The decision was made. In 30 days, one way or another, the human problem would be solved. What Vrex did not know was that Min-jun had sent a message to Earth the moment he left the council chamber. The message was only 3 words long, but those 3 words would change everything. Begin Operation Reunion. The council fleet assembled at the border of human space exactly 30 days after the declaration of war. Admiral Kenth, a veteran Sulvax commander, stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the sensor displays with satisfaction. Over 10,000 warships had gathered from 47 different species. It was the largest military force assembled in 300 years. "Status report," Kenth ordered. His voice was rough and confident. The Solvacs were known as excellent military strategists. Their rocky, crystalline bodies could withstand extreme conditions. They felt no fear. "All fleets report ready, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "We are detecting unusual activity in human space, but no military buildup." Kent brought up the tactical display. His multiple eyes studied the information carefully. Human colonies were indeed showing activity. Ships were moving everywhere. But they were civilian vessels, not military ones. Transport ships, personal shuttles, cargo haulers. It looked like an evacuation, just as the Council had demanded. "They are running," one officer said. "The humans know they cannot fight us." Kent was not so sure. He had fought in 17 military campaigns over his long career. He had learned to trust his instincts, and something felt wrong about this situation. The human ambassador's confidence still bothered him. But the data was clear. Humans were evacuating. "Move the fleet forward," Kent ordered. "All vessels maintain formation. We will proceed to the first human colony world and ensure complete compliance." The massive fleet began to move. Thousands of ships advancing together, their weapons powered but not yet armed. This was meant to be a show of force, not a massacre. If humans complied, there would be no bloodshed. But as the fleet moved deeper into human space, reports began coming in that made no sense. "Admiral, we are tracking over 300 human transport ships," the tactical officer said, "but they are not heading toward Earth." Kent's crystalline brow ridge furrowed. "Explain." "The ships are dispersing in all directions. Some are heading toward Korvax space, others toward Dravine territory, some toward Threen systems. They are spreading out across Council space, not consolidating on their homeworld." "That makes no strategic sense," Kent said slowly. "Why would they scatter their civilians into the territory of species at war with them?" Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was Commander Seok-Jin Choi, head of Earth's diplomatic corps. He was a man in his 50s with warm eyes and a gentle smile. "Greetings, Admiral Kent," Seok-Jin said. His voice was friendly, almost cheerful. "I hope your journey has been smooth so far. I wanted to reach out before there were any misunderstandings." "Commander Choi," Kent replied carefully, "you are addressing a military fleet advancing on your territory. What is there to misunderstand?" "Well, quite a lot, actually," Seok-Jin said with that same warm smile. "You see, the Council declared war on humanity. That part is clear. But what the Council failed to understand is something very important. Humanity is not just humans anymore." Kent did not understand. "Explain yourself." Seok-Jin touched something off-screen. Suddenly, the communication channel expanded. It was not just his image anymore. Behind him stood dozens of beings: Korvax, Dravine, Threen, Solvacs, and species from every Council world. All of them were standing together. Many of them had humans beside them, holding hands or standing close. "For the past 80 years, humanity has lived among you," Seok-Jin continued. "We have made friends. We have built relationships. We have become part of your families, and you have become part of ours. When the Council counted humans, they counted bodies. They never counted connections." Kent felt something cold settle in his core. He was beginning to understand. "Let me give you some numbers, Admiral," Seok-Jin said. His voice was still kind, but now there was steel underneath. 6 million documented close relationships between humans and other species. But that is just the close ones. The actual number of aliens who have worked with humans, studied with humans, lived near humans, or been helped by humans is closer to 200 million. The tactical officer beside Kent made a sound of surprise. 200 million was a significant percentage of the total Council population. "Your orders are to secure human colonies and ensure evacuation," Seok-Jin continued. "But here is what you will find. On every human colony world, There are aliens who call those places home. There are Korvax scientists who have worked alongside human researchers for decades. There are Dravine merchants whose business partners are human. There are Threen teachers whose closest friends are human. Are they supposed to fight their own friends, their own colleagues, their own family members? Kent said nothing. He was thinking rapidly, recalculating the strategic situation. And the humans who are evacuating, Seok-jin said, gesturing to the tactical display that Kent was watching. They are not running away, Admiral. They are going to visit their friends. Every human heading into Korvax space has Korvax friends waiting to welcome them. Every human heading to Dravine worlds has Dravine family ready to protect them. We are not consolidating for defense. We are dispersing to remind everyone what this war would actually require. A new communication came in. Kent accepted it on a secondary channel. It was from one of his own fleet commanders, a Dravine named Vren. Admiral Kent, Vren said. His voice was strained. I need to request immediate leave from this operation. Denied, Kent said automatically. We are in an active military deployment. Sir, my son is on one of the human colony worlds, Vren said. His voice cracked with emotion. He was orphaned 15 years ago. A human family adopted him. They raised him as their own child. If we attack that colony, I will be ordering an assault on my own son's home. Kent felt the cold sensation spread through his entire body. Commander Vren, you are a council officer. Your duty is clear. My duty was clear, Vren replied. Until I had to choose between the council and my family. Admiral, the humans gave my son a life when no one else would. They taught him to laugh again. They showed him what love was. I cannot fight them. I will not. The communication cut off. A moment later, Vren's ship broke formation and powered down its weapons. Admiral, the tactical officer said urgently, we are receiving similar reports from across the fleet. Multiple ships are requesting to withdraw from the operation. The reasons are all the same. Personal connections to humans. Kent pulled up the fleet status display. His heart sank. 15% of the fleet was reporting various issues. Equipment malfunctions, crew illness, navigation problems. He knew the truth. They were refusing to fight. Seok-jin was still on the main screen, watching Kent with that same gentle expression. Do you understand now, Admiral? The Council can order war, but they cannot order billions of individuals to fight their own friends. They cannot command parents to attack their children's caregivers. They cannot force colleagues to destroy colleagues. You have weaponized friendship, Kent said slowly. It was not an accusation. It was a realization. No, Seok-jin said firmly. We simply offered friendship freely. We formed genuine connections because that is what humans do. We saw beings who needed help and we helped them. We met people who wanted friends, and we became their friends. There was no strategy. There was no grand plan. We just lived the way humans naturally live, with open hearts. Another communication came in. This time, it was from a Korvax science vessel that was part of the fleet escort. Admiral Kent, this is Research Director Zira. I must inform you that I cannot participate in this military action. My research partner of 20 years is human. Dr. Sarah Huang and I have published 43 papers together. She saved my career when others rejected my theories. I owe her everything. I will not be part of her destruction. More ships began powering down. More officers requested transfers. The Great Council fleet was crumbling before it even engaged the enemy. Kent looked at Seok-jin on the screen. What do you want, Commander? The same thing we have always wanted, Admiral, Seok-jin replied. To live in peace, to have friends, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. The Council asked us to choose between our species and our relationships. That is not a choice humans know how to make. We do not see the difference. Kent made a decision. He was a military commander, but he was also not a fool. Fleet halt, he ordered. All ships maintain position. No hostile action. He looked back at Seok-jin. I will report this situation to the council. They need to understand what they are facing. This is not a military problem. No, Seok Jin agreed. It is not. Thank you for your wisdom, Admiral. The communication ended. Kent stood on his bridge, surrounded by his crew, and felt something he had not felt in decades. Doubt about the council's decisions, doubt about the system he had served his entire life. On Earth, Seok Jin allowed himself a small smile. The first stage was complete. The council was about to learn that some things could not be fought with weapons. Some things were stronger than fleets and armies. Things like friendship, things like love, things like the simple human desire to connect with others, whoever they were. The council fleet reached the first human colony world 3 days later. Admiral Kent had reported the fleet's problems to the council. They had ordered him to proceed anyway. But nothing could have prepared him for what he found. The colony was called New Haven. It was home to 30,000 humans and, according to records, about 5,000 alien residents who had chosen to live there. The fleet's sensors detected no defensive weapons, no military installations, no shield generators. What they detected instead made no sense at all. There was a carnival. "Admiral," the sensor officer said, confusion clear in his voice. "The main settlement is holding some kind of festival. We are detecting music, large gatherings, food preparation on a massive scale. They are broadcasting it live across the galaxy." Kent pulled up the visual feed. The screen showed the colony's central plaza. It was decorated with banners and lights from dozens of different species. Humans and aliens were dancing together. Children of multiple species were playing games. Food stalls offered dishes from 100 different worlds. On a large stage, a human band was playing music while Korvax, Dravine, and Threen singers joined in. A large banner hung across the plaza. It read in multiple languages, "Welcome, Council Fleet. You are always welcome here." "They are mocking us," one of Kent's officers growled. "No," Kent said slowly. "I do not think they are. I think they are showing us exactly what they told us. They are showing us what they built here." A communication request came through. Kent accepted it. A human woman appeared on the screen. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with bright eyes and a warm smile. Behind her, the carnival continued. "Hello, Admiral Kent," the woman said. "My name is Dr. Ji-Woo Kim. I am a xenoanthropologist. I study how different species interact and form societies. I am very happy you are here. We have been waiting to talk to you." "Dr. Kim," Kent replied carefully, "you understand that we are a military fleet. We have orders regarding this colony." "I understand your orders," Ji-Woo said, "and I want to help you understand what you are truly being asked to do. May I share something with you? A history lesson?" Kent was curious despite himself. "Proceed." Ji-Woo touched something off-screen. A holographic display appeared showing historical records. 10,000 years ago, the Galactic Council formed after a terrible war. 20 species fought each other for resources, territory, and ideological reasons. Billions died. Entire worlds were destroyed. The survivors came together and asked a question. How do we prevent this from ever happening again? Kent knew this history. Every council citizen learned it in their youth. The answer they chose, Ji-Woo continued, was the sacred isolation protocols. They decided that emotional bonds between species had caused the war, that personal relationships created bias and favoritism, so they eliminated them. They created a system based purely on merit and logic. No friendships across species lines, no families, no personal connections. Everyone would be equal because everyone would be alone. The holographic display showed images from council history, families being separated, children being removed from parents of different species, friends saying goodbye forever, all in the name of peace and stability. And it worked, Ji-Woo said. There has been no major war for 10,000 years. The Council calls this success, but what was the cost? New images appeared. Korvax individuals sitting alone in their homes. Dravine elders dying with no one to comfort them. Threen children growing up without ever learning what a hug felt like. Statistics showed rising rates of mental illness, declining birth rates, increasing use of emotion-suppressing medications. The cost, Ji-Woo said quietly, was loneliness. The cost was a galaxy full of beings who did not know how to connect with each other, who were taught that needing others was weakness, who lived their entire lives in isolation, calling it peace. She paused. Behind her, a human child was playing with a young Korvax. They were laughing together, chasing each other around the plaza. The Korvax child's parents watched with expressions that looked almost like smiles. Korvax were not supposed to smile. Then humans came, Ji-Woo continued, and we did not know about your protocols. We just knew that we met interesting people who seemed lonely. So we did what humans do. We offered friendship. We offered connection. We showed you that another way was possible. Kent watched the carnival on his screen. He saw a Dravine grandmother being hugged by a human family. He saw Threen teenagers teaching humans their traditional dances. He saw a Sulvax engineer laughing at a joke told by his human colleague. He saw beings experiencing emotions that had been forbidden for 10,000 years. Your council wants you to stop this, Ji-Woo said. They want you to make us go back to the old way, to restore the isolation. But I need to ask you something, Admiral. Look at what you are seeing. Look at these people. Do they look like they want to go back? Another communication came in. Kent accepted it on a secondary channel. It was Counselor Vrex himself. Admiral Kent, why have you not yet secured the colony? Vrex demanded. His voice was as cold and emotionless as always. Counselor, the situation is complicated, Kent replied. The colony is not resisting, but neither are they evacuating. They are holding a public demonstration. Then you will disperse the demonstration and enforce the evacuation order, Vrex said. Use force if necessary. Kent hesitated. Counselor, there are thousands of Council citizens at this demonstration. Korvax, Dravine, Threen, Sulvax. If we use force, we will be attacking our own people. Those individuals are violating Council law by their presence, Vrex stated. They have chosen to align themselves with humans. That makes them complicit in the violation of the sacred protocols. Respectfully, Counselor, Kent said, choosing his words carefully. That is not how military law works. We cannot designate Council citizens as enemies simply because they have human friends. Then arrest them for violation of the isolation protocols, Vrex ordered. We would need to arrest millions, Kent replied, across the entire galaxy. The reports are coming in from every Council world. Citizens are refusing to report for military duty. They are protesting in the streets. They are demanding changes to the protocols. This is not a military problem anymore, Counselor. This is a social revolution. There was a long silence. Kent could almost hear Vrex's mind working, recalculating everything. This is human manipulation, Vrex finally said. They have deliberately contaminated our societies to make themselves impossible to remove. Or, Kent said carefully, they have shown our citizens what they were missing. And now those citizens do not want to give it up. You sound sympathetic to the humans, Admiral, Vrex said coldly. I sound realistic, Counselor, Kent replied. I am a military commander. I understand force and tactics. But you cannot use force to make people stop caring about their friends. You cannot use tactics to eliminate love. The humans have not built weapons. They have built relationships, and those relationships are stronger than any weapon we possess. Another voice joined the communication. It was Dr. Ji-Woo Kim again. Somehow she had accessed the secured Council channel. Counselor Vrex, Ji-Woo said, I know you can hear me. I want to tell you something personal. We have been studying your people, the Korvax, For many years. Do you know what we learned? You should not be on this channel, Vrex said icily. We learned that 400 years ago, your people were different, Jiwoo continued, ignoring his objection. Before the council formed, Korvax were known for their emotional depth. You were poets, artists. You formed deep bonds with family and friends. Your literature from that era is beautiful, but after the protocols, you suppressed all of that. You trained yourselves to feel nothing. You called it evolution, but it was not evolution. It was trauma response. Your psychological analysis is irrelevant, Vrex stated. Is it? Jiwoo asked gently. Counselor, when was the last time you spoke to your daughter? There was absolute silence on the channel. Kent watched Vrex's image on the screen. For the first time, he saw something flicker across the Korvax counselor's face. Something that might have been pain. My daughter, Vrex said slowly, lives on Korvax Prime. We communicate through official channels when necessary. She is 42 years old, Jiwoo said softly. You have not seen her in person since she was 2. The protocols determined that your work was incompatible with child rearing. She was raised in a state facility. She does not know you. You do not know her. And both of you have lived with that loss for 40 years, calling it duty. That is how our society functions, Vrex said, but his voice was not quite as steady as before. It does not have to be, Jiwoo replied. Counselor, 3 days ago your daughter contacted us. She saw the news about humans and families. She has been watching the broadcasts from this festival. She asked us if what humans say is true, if parents and children are supposed to know each other, if it is normal to love your family. Vrex said nothing. On Kent's screen, he could see the Korvax counselor's hands gripping the edges of his desk. We told her yes, Jiwoo said. We told her that in human society, parents and children build relationships. They share their lives. They support each other. We showed her videos of human families. She cried, Counselor, we did not know Korvax could cry, but she did. Stop, Vrex said. His voice was barely a whisper. She wants to meet you, Jiwoo finished gently. Not as Counselor Vrex, as her father. She sent us a message to give to you. Would you like to hear it? Vrex did not answer. He simply ended the communication. Kent sat on his bridge, feeling like he had just witnessed something profound. Around him, his crew was silent. Many of them were thinking about their own families, their own disconnections, their own loneliness that they had been taught to ignore. On New Haven Colony, the carnival continued, and across the galaxy, millions of beings were starting to ask questions. Questions about the protocols, questions about the cost of peace, questions about whether living without connection was truly living at all. While Admiral Kent held his position at New Haven Colony, a different group was making different decisions. Deep in Council space, Commander Zex assembled the Loyalist fleet. These were the true believers. Officers and crew who valued the protocols above everything else. They saw what was happening across the galaxy and called it chaos. They believed the only solution was to cut off the head of the problem. They were going to attack Earth directly. All ships report ready, Zex's tactical officer announced. Zex was Threen, with sharp features and sharper convictions. He had served the Council for 60 years. He had never questioned an order in his life. He was not about to start now. Proceed to human homeworld, Zex commanded. Maximum speed. We will strike before they can organize resistance. The Loyalist fleet consisted of 800 ships. It was smaller than the main Council fleet, but it was enough. Earth's actual military defense force was minimal. Humans had invested in exploration and diplomacy, not weapons. Their bet on friendship over firepower was about to be tested in the most direct way possible. On Earth, Admiral Tae Yang Song watched the approaching fleet on his tactical displays. He was a veteran of Earth's small defense force. He had always argued for stronger military investment. Now he would face the consequences of humanity's choices. How long until they reach firing range? He asked his operations officer. 14 minutes, sir, came the reply. We have 43 defense platforms and 12 patrol ships in position. It is not enough, not nearly enough. Tae Yang looked at the numbers. 800 enemy ships against Earth's minimal defenses. The mathematics were brutal and clear. He activated the planetary communication system. This is Admiral Song to all Earth Defense Forces, he said calmly. The enemy fleet is approaching. All personnel to battle stations. Civilians, please proceed to designated shelters. We will do everything we can to protect our homeworld. But even as he spoke, he knew it was probably not enough. Humanity had gambled everything on friendship, on connection, on the belief that relationships were stronger than weapons. In 14 minutes, they would learn if that gamble had been wise or foolish. Commander Zex watched Earth grow larger on his tactical display. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and beautiful. It was home to 12 billion humans. He felt no pleasure at what he was about to do, but he felt no hesitation either. This was necessary. Charge weapons, he ordered. Target military installations first, then major population centers if they do not surrender immediately. We will make an example that the entire galaxy will understand. Commander, his sensor officer said suddenly, we are detecting multiple contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel, all around us. Zex frowned. Identify them. Is Earth's fleet returning? Negative, sir. These are not Earth ships. They are... Counselor, we are detecting Korvax vessels, Dravine vessels, Threen, Sulvax, and ships from at least 40 different species. They are positioning themselves between us and Earth. Zex stared at his tactical display. Hundreds of ships were appearing. Thousands of ships. They were not military vessels. They were cargo haulers, passenger transports, science ships, personal shuttles, civilian vessels from across the galaxy. And they were creating a wall between the Loyalist fleet and Earth. What is happening? Zex demanded. Why are Council civilians defending the human homeworld? A communication request came through from one of the ships. Zex accepted it. A Korvax face appeared on his screen. It was an older male with weathered features. He was clearly a merchant captain based on his clothing. Commander Zex, the Korvax said. My name is Rix. I am captain of the merchant vessel Steady Prophet. I need to inform you that if you want to reach Earth, you will have to go through us first. Captain Rix, Zex replied coldly. You are a council citizen. You are interfering with a military operation. Stand down immediately. I cannot do that, Rix said calmly. My daughter lives on Earth. She is human. Well, legally, she is human. I adopted her 17 years ago after her parents died in an accident. The human authorities granted me full parental rights despite our species difference. They said family was family, regardless of biology. More communication requests flooded in. Zex opened multiple channels. A Dravine scientist appeared on one screen. My research partner is human. She saved my life during an experiment accident. I will not let you harm her world. A Threen teacher appeared on another. I have taught alongside humans for 12 years. They taught me that education is about inspiration, not just information. They changed my life. A Sulvax engineer. My business partner is human. We have built 17 stations together. He is the best friend I have ever had. More voices, more faces, more stories. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. Every ship in the civilian fleet had a reason to be there. Every captain had a human friend, colleague, student, or family member they were protecting. You are all violating council law, Zex stated. You are all subject to arrest and punishment. Then arrest us, Rix replied simply. But to do that, you will have to destroy our ships first. And we are council citizens, Commander. Are you prepared to commit mass murder of your own people? On Earth, Admiral Tae Yang Song watched the tactical display with tears in his eyes. He had thought Earth would stand alone. He had prepared himself for desperate last defense. Instead, thousands of alien civilians had placed themselves in danger to protect humanity's homeworld. They had come from across the galaxy. They had left their jobs, their homes, their comfortable lives, all to stand between Earth and destruction. "Sir," his operations officer said, her voice choked with emotion, "we are receiving transmissions from the civilian fleet. They are playing them on all channels." Tae Yang listened, the voices of 1,000 different beings speaking in 100 different languages, all saying the same thing. Earth is our home too. Humans are our family. You will not harm our friends. We stand together. Commander Zex felt something he had not felt in decades. Doubt. Not just tactical doubt, but philosophical doubt. He looked at the thousands of civilian ships forming a shield around Earth. He looked at the faces on his screens. These were not human sympathizers. These were ordinary council citizens who had experienced something that changed them. They had experienced friendship. His weapons officer spoke quietly. "Commander, they are not backing down. If we fire on Earth, we will have to destroy them first. That is over 6,000 civilian vessels. Over 30,000 council citizens. It would be the largest massacre in modern galactic history." Zex closed his eyes. He had spent his entire life believing in the Council's way. The protocols had kept the peace for 10,000 years. They had prevented war. But now he was being asked to commit an atrocity to preserve that peace. He was being asked to kill innocent people to maintain order. Was this really peace? Was this really order worth having? A new voice entered the communication channel. It was Admiral Kenth from the main council fleet. "Commander Zex," Kenth said firmly, "I am ordering you to stand down. Do not fire on the civilian vessels. Do not fire on Earth. This operation is canceled." "You do not have authority over my command," Zex replied automatically. "No," Kenth agreed, "but I am asking you as one officer to another, as one being to another. Look at what is happening. The Council sent us to fight humans. But what we found is that we cannot fight humans without fighting our own people, because they have become intertwined with our societies, not through force, not through manipulation, through simple friendship." Zex looked at his tactical display again, at the thousands of ships protecting Earth, at the faces on his screens, a Korvax merchant who loved his adopted daughter, a Dravine scientist who valued her partner, a Threen teacher who had learned from humans. These were not enemies. These were people protecting the ones they cared about. His weapons officer spoke again. "Sir, I need to inform you of something. My sister is on one of those civilian ships. She is protecting Earth because her husband is human. They have 3 children together. If we fire, I will be killing my own family." The officer's voice broke on the last word. Around the bridge, other crew members were having similar realizations. They knew people in that civilian fleet. They had family, friends, or former colleagues out there. The human problem was not out there. It was in here, in their own hearts. Zex made his decision. "Fleet, stand down," he ordered. "Power down weapons. Maintain defensive positions only." "Sir?" his tactical officer asked in shock. "I will not fire on Council citizens," Zex said firmly. "I will not kill innocent people. If that makes me a traitor to the protocols, then so be it. But I will not become a mass murderer." One by one, the ships in the Loyalist fleet powered down their weapons. Some crews refused and tried to continue the attack. Their own crewmates stopped them, sometimes forcefully. The fleet dissolved, not from enemy action, but from internal conflict. They could not agree on whether protecting the protocols was worth killing their own people. On Earth, Admiral Tae Yang Song watched the enemy fleet stand down. Around him, his officers were crying, laughing, and hugging each other. Earth had been saved, not by Earth's weapons, not by Earth's military, but by the friends humanity had made across the galaxy, by the connections they had formed, by the simple act of treating others with kindness and respect. Tai Yang activated the communication system. "To all civilian vessels protecting Earth," he said, "thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for showing the galaxy what friendship means. You have saved us all." In the civilian fleet, Captain Ricks smiled. "That is what friends do, Admiral," he replied. "That is what family does. We protect each other." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched what had happened at Earth. They saw Council citizens refusing to fight humans. They saw ordinary people risking their lives for their friends. They saw the protocols breaking down not through war, but through love. And on Korvax Prime, Counselor Vrex sat in his office alone. He stared at a communication device. On its screen was a message from his daughter. She had sent it 3 days ago. He had not been able to bring himself to read it. Until now. He opened the message. Her face appeared. She looked like him. Same features, same eyes. But her eyes held something his did not. Warmth. Hope. "Hello, Father," she said softly. "I do not know if you will read this, but I wanted you to know that I watched the humans. I watched how they treat their families. I always thought I was defective for wanting to know you, for feeling lonely. But the humans say I am not defective. They say it is normal to want your parent in your life. So I am asking, if the protocols allow it, could we meet? Could we try to know each other? I would like that very much." Vrex sat very still. Then, for the first time in 40 years, he felt something wet on his face. He touched his cheek. Tears. Korvax were not supposed to cry. But he was crying anyway. 6 months after the war that never was. Representatives from all 48 species gathered in an unusual place. It was not the cold council chambers where Minjun Park had stood facing judgment. It was a new space station called the Bridge. Humans had designed it, but every species had contributed to its construction. The architecture blended elements from across the galaxy. Warm colors, natural light, comfortable spaces designed for beings of all shapes and sizes to gather together. Ambassador Minjun Park stood at the entrance, welcoming delegates as they arrived. He shook hands, accepted traditional greetings, and smiled warmly at everyone. This was what he had imagined 6 months ago when he smiled at the Council's war declaration. This moment, this gathering, this chance for change. The main assembly hall was not arranged in a cold circle like the council chamber. Instead, it had comfortable seating groups where delegates could talk face to face. There was food from every world. There was art on the walls representing every culture. There was music playing softly, a blend of melodies from dozens of species. It felt like a home, not a government building. Dr. Sarah Huang stood beside Minjun, watching the delegates arrive. She was Earth's lead xenopsychologist. She had spent decades studying how different species could live together. Now her theories were being put into practice on the largest scale possible. "Are you nervous?" Minjun asked her quietly. "Terrified," Sarah admitted with a smile. "We are attempting to rebuild 10,000 years of galactic governance in 6 months, but I am also hopeful. Look at them." Minjun looked. He saw Korvax delegates talking quietly with Dravine representatives. He saw Threen and Solvax sharing food. He saw species that had barely spoken to each other for millennia now engaged in friendly conversation. The change was already beginning. Counselor Vrex entered the hall. Minjun had not been sure he would come. The Korvax counselor had been one of humanity's strongest opponents. But Vrex looked different now. He was not alone. Walking beside him was a younger Korvax woman, his daughter. Minjun approached them. "Counselor Vrex, welcome to the bridge. Thank you for coming." "Ambassador Park," Vrex replied. His voice was no longer cold. There was something new in it. Uncertainty, perhaps, or maybe just humanity. I want you to meet someone. This is my daughter, Sarah. It is an honor, Min-jun said, bowing slightly to Sarah. I am very glad you are both here. I would not have come if not for her, Vrex admitted quietly. She helped me understand what I was too afraid to see, that the protocols did not bring peace. They brought emptiness. And we called that emptiness peace because we did not remember what true peace felt like. Sarah smiled at her father. It was clear they were still learning how to be family, still learning how to talk to each other. But they were trying. That was what mattered. The assembly was called to order, but there was no formal ceremony, no rigid protocol. Min-jun simply stepped to the center of the room and spoke. Thank you all for coming, he said. His voice was warm and genuine. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. Today, we gather not as enemies, but as neighbors, as colleagues, as friends. What changed was not military victory. What changed was understanding. So today, I want to begin not with speeches, but with stories. Who would like to share first? There was a moment of silence. Then a Dravine admiral stood. It was Vren, the officer who had refused to fight because his son was raised by humans. My name is Admiral Vren, he said. 6 months ago, I had to choose between my duty and my family. I chose family. The old council would have called that betrayal. But I want to tell you what that choice has meant. My son was orphaned when he was 3 years old. No Dravine family would take him because he was from a low caste. The humans did not care about caste. They saw a child who needed love. They gave him a home. They taught him to laugh, to hope, to dream. When the council ordered me to attack humans, they were ordering me to destroy the beings who saved my son's life. I could not do it, and I am not sorry. Vren sat down. Others stood to share their stories. A Korvax scientist talked about her human research partner. A Threen teacher described how humans taught her to show affection to her students. A Solvax merchant explained how his human business partner became his closest friend. Story after story, connection after connection. Each one was a thread in a vast web that had tied the galaxy together without anyone fully realizing it. Then something unexpected happened. A group of delegates stood together. They were not standing to speak. They were standing to object. They were the hardliners, the ones who still believed in the old ways. Their leader was a Korvax named Tev. He spoke loudly and firmly. This is wrong, Tev declared. We are abandoning 10,000 years of stability. We are embracing chaos. Emotional bonds create bias. They create favoritism. They will lead us back to war. The humans have deceived you all with their manipulation. They have weaponized your loneliness. But I will not be part of this mistake. He gestured to his group. We demand a return to the sacred isolation protocols. We demand humanity be contained. If this assembly will not do it, we will take action ourselves. There was a tense silence in the hall. Min-jun did not look angry or afraid. He looked sad. He understood these beings. They were scared. Change was frightening, especially change this fundamental. But before he could respond, a strange sound came from outside the assembly hall. Shouting, alarms. The delegates turned toward the doors in confusion. The doors burst open, but it was not an attack. It was a rescue. The hostages that Tev's group had taken were walking through the doors freely. They were humans and aliens, working together. They had freed themselves. A human woman led the group. She was young, maybe 25, with dirt on her clothes and determination in her eyes. Beside her walked a Korvax male who was supporting an injured Dravine. Behind them came others, all helping each other. I am sorry we are late, the human woman said breathlessly. But we had a problem to solve. These people, she gestured to Tev's group, took us hostage 3 hours ago. They said they would release us if the assembly agreed to reject the humans' proposal. They thought holding us would give them power. She smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost gentle. But they made a mistake. They put humans and aliens together in the same room and expected us not to work together. We talked, we planned, we executed, and here we are. The Korvax man beside her nodded. My name is Kev. I am Korvax. 6 months ago, I did not believe in emotional connections. I thought they were weakness. Then I was trapped in that room with humans and others, and I learned that connection is not weakness. It is strength. When we work together, when we care about each other, we can overcome anything. Tev and his group stood frozen. Their plan had failed. Their hostages had saved themselves, and they had done it through cooperation. Dr. Sarah Huang stood and walked to the center of the room. This, she said, gesturing to the freed hostages, is what we are trying to tell you. The old way was built on a lie. The lie that we are safer alone, that we are stronger apart. But look at what just happened. People of different species working together saved themselves. They did not need weapons. They did not need military force. They needed each other. She turned to Tev and his group. I understand your fear. Change is terrifying. But staying isolated will not keep you safe. It will only keep you lonely. And loneliness is its own kind of danger. It makes us weak. It makes us desperate. It makes us forget that we are stronger together. Security personnel arrived to take Tev's group into custody, but Minjun held up his hand. No arrests, he said firmly. They were afraid. They acted from fear, but fear is not a crime. It is something we need to address with understanding, not punishment. He looked at Tev. You are welcome to stay. You are welcome to participate in building whatever comes next. You are even welcome to disagree, but violence and hostage-taking are not acceptable. Can you agree to that? Tev looked around the room, at the delegates watching him with concern, not hatred, at the hostages who showed no anger, only relief at being free, at his own group, many of whom looked ashamed of what they had done. Slowly, he nodded. I can agree, he said quietly, but I still believe you are making a mistake. Then help us avoid the mistakes, Sarah replied kindly. Help us build something that addresses your concerns. That is what this assembly is for, not to force one solution, but to find answers together. The assembly continued. For 3 more days, delegates talked, debated, and shared ideas. Humans did not dominate the conversation. They listened more than they spoke. They offered suggestions but never demanded acceptance. They acted as bridges, helping different species communicate with each other. By the end of the 3rd day, a framework began to emerge. Not the old council with its rigid protocols, not a human-led government. Something new. The Galactic Community, a system based on cooperation, not isolation. A system that valued both individual sovereignty and collective connection. A system that said it was okay to have friends across species lines, to form families, to build relationships, but also to maintain boundaries and respect differences. It was not perfect. No system could be. But it was better. It was kinder. It was human in the best sense of the word. On the final day, representatives signed the founding charter of the Galactic Community. Each species added their mark. Each delegate contributed their voice. When it was done, there was not wild celebration. There was quiet satisfaction, a sense that something important had just begun. Councillor Vrex approached Minjun as delegates prepared to leave. Ambassador Park, he said, I want to apologize. I called you a threat to galactic stability. I was wrong. You were not wrong, Minjun replied gently. We are a threat to galactic stability, the old stability, built on loneliness and isolation. But sometimes systems need to be disrupted. Sometimes stability is just another word for stagnation. Vrex nodded slowly. My daughter and I are going to travel together for a while. She wants to show me the galaxy. Not as a counselor, as her father. I do not know how to be a father, but she says that is okay. We can learn together. That is the human way, Minjun said with a smile. Learning together, growing together, being imperfect together but supporting each other through it. I think you and Sarah will do just fine. As Vrex walked away with his daughter, Minjun felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Admiral Tae Yang Song. We did it, Tae Yang said softly. When the Council declared war, I thought we would have to fight. I thought we would have to defend ourselves with weapons. But you knew better. You knew that the connections we had built would be stronger than any weapon. I hoped, Minjun corrected. I did not know. But I believed in what humans do best. We make friends. We build relationships. We connect. And once you have enough connections, once you have enough people who care about each other across all the dividing lines, war becomes impossible, not because anyone wins, but because everyone has too much to lose. A young voice interrupted them. A child appeared on the main screen, broadcasting across all channels. She was speaking from Earth. She looked about 10 years old, with features that were distinctly mixed, half human, half Dravine. Hello, the child said in multiple languages. My name is May. My mother is human. My father is Dravine. I am speaking to you today because I have a question. A very simple question. She paused, looking directly at the camera with innocent, honest eyes. For 10,000 years you lived apart. You followed protocols that kept you isolated. You called it peace. But were you happy? Were you satisfied? Or were you just alone? Another pause. Now you have a choice. You can go back to the old way. You can be separate and call it order. Or you can try something new. You can be connected and call it family. My parents chose connection. I exist because they chose love over protocol. And I think I am proof that connection creates something beautiful. She smiled. It was a child's smile, pure and bright. So here is my question. Isn't this better? Isn't being together, even if it is messy, better than being alone? The transmission ended. In the assembly hall, delegates stood in silence. Some were crying, some were smiling. All of them were thinking about May's question. Isn't this better? Minjun looked around the room. At species that had barely spoken for millennia, now engaged in real conversation, at Vrex and his daughter learning to be family, at Admiral Vren, who had chosen love over duty and found peace in that choice. At thousands of connections being formed right now across the galaxy. And he knew the answer to May's question. Yes, this was better, not perfect, not easy, but better. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had always intended. They had not come to conquer. They had not come to rule. They had simply come to offer friendship. And in accepting that friendship, the galaxy had transformed itself. Humanity had won the war by refusing to fight it. They had changed everything by simply being themselves, by caring, by connecting, by showing that the greatest strength was not in weapons or isolation, but in the simple act of reaching out to another being and saying, I see you, I value you, I want to know you. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not technology, not military might, just friendship. Just love. Just the radical belief that everyone deserved connection. And in the end, that was stronger than any weapon. That was more powerful than any army. That was what truly changed the galaxy forever.